What's happening, everybody? This your boy Charles Wells, aka C Wells, coming at you with another edition of SWAC Talk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. Gonna, as you can see, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, I just wanted to do a little video. It's not gonna be too long. I just wanted to talk about, why Texas Southern football cannot win consistently, and this is something that's always been on my mind ever since a young kid. I've been going to Southern games and following SWAC football since at least 1981. Yeah, I'm old. I'm almost 45, but I've been, and Texas Southern is one of those teams that I always wondered why they weren't better than what they were. And yeah, they would have teams that would be good. There were some players that would end up being great, but they just never was a team that could consistently be at the top of the standings. So before we get into all that, let's go ahead and get all the formalities out of the way. Facebook.com/SWACtalk, Twitter.com/SWACtalk76, Instagram.com/SWACtalk, and SWACtalk76 at gmail.com is the email address. Also, don't forget to check out the podcast, SWAC Talk, found on anchor.fm/SWAC Talk. It can be found on Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all of that. Just search Swag Talk, SWACtalk, one word, as you can see. Um, and while you're here, if you haven't done so already, once you go and subscribe to the page, hit the notification bell to be alerted to any content that I upload. Um, like the video, share them, and feel free to comment on any video that you see, especially on this one. If you have any thoughts or ideas of why Texas Southern can't get over the hump, man, I'd love to hear them. So go ahead and drop those down in the comments. Um, with that being said, Swag Talk Time Machine coming on Wednesday. Gonna cover Prairie View 2009 Swag Championship plus the journey from the years past futility to the championship. We're going to cover all of that. Sunday, spring 2021 recap, Southern University, YouTube and podcast episodes dropping on Sunday. So all that out the way, man. Let's talk about Texas Southern. This is, like I said, this is a program that I've been following, watching them play, off and on since I was a young kid, and they never really consistently won. They had some good teams. They had some really good teams in like the '60s and the '70s, and you would have to probably honestly go back to that point to find a decade that they had a overall winning record that decade. I believe, looking at the numbers, I think they've had like 6 winning seasons since like 1990. So not a lot of success. And the only championship they won in that time period, in the bulk of my lifetime, from like 1980 to now, was in 2010, which they ended up having to vacate because of a school wide sports. I don't want to call it a scandal, but just they got hit hard with sanctions. A lot of things weren't being done correctly in all sports. But football got at that point, football got hit with a 5 year probation. That happened in 2012. They went on probation for 5 years. Lost of scholarships, postseason ban 2013, 2014, where the teams weren't good at that point anyway. So that ban didn't mean anything. But the scholarship reductions definitely hurt. And they've never really bounced back from that. They haven't had a winning season since 2010 when they won the championship. And they had back to back winning seasons in 2009 and 2010. That was probably like one of the last times they had back to back winning seasons. You'd actually have to go back to 98, 99, and 2000, the last time that they won. They had winning seasons consecutively. And that was 3 consecutive winning seasons in the late 90s. And those were some really solid teams, man. They had guys like Joey Jamison, who was a punt returner, defensive back, Thomas Sayer, Donnie Bradley were running backs. Um, they had some teams, they were solid. They really had some. Cedric Douglas was a quarterback there at that point in time. I remember him. He transferred from Vanderbilt to Texas Southern in the mid '90s. He was a really solid quarterback. Beat Southern on their homecoming in '96, and they just that was the last time that they had any sustained success. I think it was '98. They had two 1,000-yard rushers on the same team in the same season, and they only won 6 games. So that to me that signifies what Texas Southern football is. Lots of talent and production at times, but just not team success. Even if you look at the last few years, they had DeAndre Johnson as the quarterback. You may know him from Florida State, Last Chance U, FAU. Um, he put up good numbers in 2019, and they did not win a game. And think about that. They had a quarterback who put up crazy numbers, and he got hurt mid-season. But before he got hurt, they were putting up really serious numbers, and they could not stop anybody, and they lost all of their games that year. They had some good receivers the last few years, like Trendavian White, Donnie Corley. Both of those guys ended up leading the SWAC in receiving in separate seasons, and still couldn't get anything done. They had guys, like Dominic Franklin. Um, they just had some, they had individual pieces defensively. They just have not been good. But that's not, I always wonder why they can't get over the hump. And it's pretty simple. Obviously, I feel like, and this is all my opinion, they are in probably one of the biggest markets, or they are in the biggest market in the SWAC. Houston is a market that's flooded with talent. The whole I-10 corridor. If you go, 5 hours east, you're like in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. That whole corridor going east is full of talent. You can go to Austin and San Antonio. You go north to Dallas, East Texas. You got your long views and all those places. So there's talent, and obviously, I know Texas is a place where everybody puts their hands in. The SWAC always, everybody in the SWAC pretty much has their hands in Houston. Um, Prairie View has really built their program up. They're not a championship team, per se, but they're always a team that's going to contend year after year. And they get what they want. Southern and Grambling dip in the Houston a lot and get what they want. Jackson State gets guys out of Houston. And ironically, Texas Southern basketball has a pipeline from time to time from Jackson, Mississippi. So I'm surprised that Texas Southern is just not able to do what they need to do on the football field. Like I said, they have a career winning percentage of 434. So that I mean they're 327, 431, and 27 in 76 years of football. And 33 of those 76 years, they've had winning seasons. So not a lot of sustained success, but I feel like that they don't have any real consistency. Now, Coach McKinney may be the guy to help get them over the hump. They are trying to build, but Texas Southern lacks an identity as a program. They play their home games at BBVA Stadium, which is about 3 or 4 miles off of campus. But it's a pretty large facility. I think like 22,000 or so seats, 22,000 orange seats, as most people like to point out. But they have an on-campus stadium, Durley Stadium. It holds about 10,000. They did some renovations on it. They put a new scoreboard in the end zone a couple years back. 2019 was the first year they played a game back at home after a while homecoming that year. So I think they need something to get them over the edge. Whether it's playing more games at home to build up a home field advantage. Because if you look at their basketball program, their arena is a place that nobody wants to play at. They're very. I mean, they tough away from home, but they're very tough at home. If you win in Houston in basketball, then you put in work and earn that W. So I think they need to try to build that, and that takes time, obviously. But I think they need to build some kind of edge at home, and one of those things means keeping games at home. I don't like them moving their game with Southern to Dallas or Arlington, whatever you want to say, because I think that's a game that brings money. Not so much, well, it brings money because there's a lot of Southern people in Houston, and Southern people love to go to Houston. But that's a trip that their fans will come out for a home game. And if you can steal a W here and there against a Southern or Grambling, that helps boost you for the rest of the season. I definitely think they need to probably live in the transfer portal. I think they need to definitely take advantage of that. They get guys every now and then, but the guys they get don't really pan out. Like they got Jonathan Giles, who was at Texas Tech and LSU, and I mean he had a limited season this year because of COVID, but he didn't really play very well. Um, they really need to get them a hook. I feel like every program that is successful has something that they're known for. You look at Jackson State. Throughout the years, Jackson State was a defensive team with some great offensive weapons. They always had a good running game and a passing attack that can take advantage of anything that you did to account for their running game. If you look at a program like Alcorn is always going to have a strong running game and very very physical defense and a big offensive line that's going to push you around. Now they may shape their team to fit whoever's leading the team at quarterback. When they had Lenoris Footman back in the mid 2010s, they were more of a totally running team because he was more of a runner than a passer. When they had Briggs and Noah Johnson, they would throw the ball a little bit more, but they still ran it a lot. With the trigger man, Felix Harper, they throw the ball a little bit more, but they still have great running backs. And it's just like Gramblin's always been a team with strong defense and a pretty solid offense, but defense has always been what Grambling was known for. Now, if you go back to their Robinson days, you had the wing T offense that they ran. Alabama A&M now is an offensive team, and I think that's going to be their mentality under Connell Manor. Just looking at, those are just some examples. I think Texas Southern needs some kind of consistency in the coach position. Hopefully, Coach McKinney can win a couple games so he can stay there and build that program because they haven't had a really consistent program in years. So I think that number one, they need to have consistency on the field. They need to get some W's. They need to. They're always going to be that 3 to 6 win team. They need to get back to that. They haven't even been that for a while. I think they need to get back to winning a few games here and there to build themselves up. 2016 was the last time they won more than 2 games. So they need to get back to winning some games. They need to start making some headway consistently in their home area. Um, Recruiting against teams on their level, they need to kind of do a better job of locking down some of their homegrown talent. Texas is a big place, and you're never going to keep everybody out of there, but you need to kind of stake your claim and get what you want, and then live with whatever else happens. If they need to dip more into Beaumont, Louisiana, those areas. Just I think they need to really, really establish themselves on the recruiting trail. A term I really hate, but I just used it. They need to establish themselves there. They definitely need to take advantage of the transfer portal. They get guys in. Especially on your lines. I think they need to really get guys to bulk up both lines because they're not as solid on the lines, which definitely hurts you and allows teams to push you around because just as many points as they scored on offense in 2019, they gave up even more points. They scored 241 offensive points in 2019. They gave up 500, so they could not stop anybody. They need to really establish themselves in that aspect and develop an identity, which starts at home with your home stadium, getting a consistent crowd at home, consistent home field advantage. I mean, you're not going to win every game at home, but you need something to get people to come out consistently. Not necessarily because of who you're playing, but more just the fact that they're coming to see you. So, like I said, this was nothing that I didn't really put too much into this. I just wanted to kind of freestyle a little bit and talk about, you know, a program that's just never consistently a top of the line program. And I'm not saying that they have to be a division contender year in and year out. But if you can put yourself in that third or fourth place range, consistently, then you're gonna finish higher, with some good breaks. If you can steal a game against a top team, then you're gonna put yourself in better positions to win. If you look at what Prairie View did, and Prairie View benefited a lot from getting the A&M money. But if you look at how they built their program in the mid 2000s to now, they really invested in the athletics as a whole. I think Texas Southern has an athletic budget of about 12 million. But Prairie View did a lot of revamps. They built a new stadium. They have a very nice academic reputation and a great athletic facilities. They have a lot of nice things on campus, and they really focused on winning and competing year in and year out. They won the Commissioner's Cup this year, which is, if you don't know, that's for the school that finished as highest in terms of total sports programs. So Texas Southern needs to take advantage of that because they have a great basketball program. Their women's basketball program is solid. At pretty much track is always good, and baseball is always a program that's right there as well. So football is the key. If that football program could come around and consistently win, I think that would be a team that could really shake up the SWAC because you're playing in one of the biggest cities in the country. If you can get you some talent and keep them, then the sky's the limit. So like I said, this was just a little freestyle I wanted to throw out there. Nothing major, nothing really concrete or organized. Totally is more like an off the dome type of a rant type of thing. So I like to thank everybody for listening. If you got any ideas of what Texas Southern could do to win, put them in the comments. Let me know. And we'll be back on Wednesday with our SWAC Talk Time Machine. So I'll holler at y'all then.